Here is the second part of my followers saying what matches they think will happen at this year's WrestleMania. So, we have Mike starting us off saying Finn versus Dom. Like I said in my last video, I do think this is the direction we are heading in this year, ultimately ending the Judgment Day as we know it right now. Joe17 says Braun versus Seth and Brock versus Gunther or Oba. Ultimately, I am split down the middle on the Seth versus Braun matchup. Ultimately, it comes down to whether Seth is able to return ahead of WrestleMania or not. But I do think this will happen. I won't touch on Oba versus Brock as I went over that in the last part. But I did say I think Gunther versus Brock will be the SummerSlam matchup, and ultimately I think will be Brock's last match. Tito says Gunther versus Dragon Lee and Asuka versus Kairi Sane. Gunther versus Dragon Lee would be an absolute banger, however I'm not sure if it happens. This feels like it's setting up Gunther versus Rey Mysterio. Whether his career would be on the line, I'm not sure. But I do think Dom will be Rey's final match. I don't think this happens at WrestleMania. Maybe at Evolution at the earliest, as we know Triple H always delays. I think we see the Kabuki Warriors involved in a multi-tag match for the women's tag titles. Gaurav says Cody versus Drew versus Fatu. I agree with this matchup happening, with Drew eliminating Cody from the Rumble, and as a consequence got Jacob Fatu eliminated. Also, Drew got involved in the pair's matchup at Saturday night's main event back in January. I do think these three would have a great match, and it shouldn't be Cody versus Drew again. Stampede says Drew versus Cody, Jacob versus Orton, Liv versus Vacker, Jade versus Bianca if Bianca is cleared, Becky versus AJ, the Bellas versus the women's tag team champions, Oba versus Brock, Carmelo versus Trick, Finn versus Dom, LA Knight versus Braun, and the Usos versus the Pauls. Before the Rumble, I was convinced we were getting this matchup, but when she didn't appear in the Rumble, which we thought she would, and us not knowing when her next appearance is, I think we don't get this one-on-one. But I want it to happen. On this most recent Raw episode, the Bellas confirmed their interest in becoming women's tag champs. So we are definitely getting them as champs, and I do think it happens at WrestleMania. Seeing Melo versus Trick at Mania would be amazing. Following their feud in NXT, I think they should run the feud back on a bigger stage. And what stage is bigger than WrestleMania? Braun versus LA Knight, I think, is a safe backup match if Seth isn't back in time for Mania. Which sucks for Knight, because he deserves better than being a backup. Finally, in regards to Jake and Logan Paul versus the Usos, I could see it happening. But not at WrestleMania. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this down the line, especially if they reunite the bloodline in some capacity. And we've seen Jake get physical with the Usos in one of Logan's first matches in WWE. Sahil says Braun versus Seth and Liv versus Stephanie. I talked about this last time, but I like Stephanie versus Liv. And I do think we are heading that way after Raquel lost to Stephanie. EJB says the Usos versus Lucha Brothers. This would be an absolute banger. It feels like they don't really have anything for Phoenix right now. So why not bring the Lucha Bros together? Both tag divisions are currently lacking a stacked division, which hurts after seeing the SummerSlam TLC match last year. Finally, Kunwer says Randy versus Speed. It scares me that this could become a reality. I like Speed, and I would be interested in him having a match in WWE, and Randy has even trained him. But Randy deserves so much better than being the go-to guy when bringing a celebrity into WWE. That's it. Let me know which match you guys would like to see happening at WrestleMania 42 this year. Any likes, comments, and subs are appreciated. Have a great rest of your day, and stay safe, everyone. Much love to all.